Hi guys, in today's video we're going to be learning how to multiply and divide by tens and hundreds. So this is actually a really easy concept. In fact, in many ways it's easier than multiplying by any other number, and yet for some reason it is something that continues to trip people up. I'm going to cover two strategies today, both of which will always get you the right answer. It just gives you two different ways of thinking about it. So to start off with, we're going to start with a couple of fairly simple examples. So let's say we take 7 and we're going to multiply it by 10. Okay, so we should know about place value already. We have units, we have tens, hundreds and thousands, and then smaller than that, after our decimal point, we have tenths and hundredths, which are all fractions of a whole number. Okay, so that's ways of writing things that are less than one whole. Now we have 7 units. If we're wanting to multiply this by 10, and you know your 10 times table, you know that that's 70. But why? Well, what happens here is this 7 gets 10 times bigger, so it goes up one column there. Its place then gets filled with a 0. So 7 times 10 becomes 70. What about 7 times 100 then? Well, in this case, instead of going up just one place, it's going to go up 2 places, which means that we're going to have 2 zeros fill in the gap. So 7 times 100 becomes 700. Basically, however many zeros there are, everything moves up that number of places. So 2 zeros, you move up 2 places. 1 0, you move up 1 place. 3 zeros, you would move up 3 places, and so on. What about this example then? So 64 times 10, well that is 6 tens and 4 units. We're multiplying it by 10, there's 1 0 there, and so everything is going to move up 1 place. That means that we're going to have to put a 0 in to fill the gap. If we were multiplying it by 100, then how many places is it going to move up? Well, it's going to move up 2 places. And so we're going to have 2 zeros fill in the gaps here. Now this same strategy works even if we have things with decimal points in them. So 8.7, well the way we would write that is 8 units and 7 tenths there. And we really need in our little decimal point there as well. So 8.7, if we're going to times that by, tell you what, let's go straight to 100. We know there's 2 zeros, so it's going to have to move up 2 places. So I take that, I move it up 1, I move it up 2. Now, we've got a gap under here, therefore we can just fill it with a 0. So 8.7 times 100 becomes 870. What about dividing then? Well, dividing is just the opposite process. In the case of division, we move everything the other way, so we end up with smaller numbers. So let's take 600 divided by 10. Well, 600 is 6 hundreds, no tens, no units. We're dividing it by 10. There's 1 0, so we're going to move it 1 place. But this time it moves to the right, so everything gets 1 place smaller. So 600 divided by 10 becomes 60. Just 60. What about 45 divided by 10? So we've got 45, 4 tens, 5 units. We're dividing it by 10. It's going to move 1 place down. There. So we get 4.5. One more example then. So we'll do 167. And this time divide it by 100. Well, we know it's going to move 2 places. And because it's division, it's going to move to the right. So we're going to take it here and we're going to go 1 place, 2 places. So we get 1.67. It would be perfectly possible in some cases to even have zeros here. So you might have 0 point something, and that will still be a valid answer. So that's one way of thinking about it. When it comes to multiplying, we move all our columns to the left. When it comes to dividing, we move all our columns to the right. However, now I'm going to cover a slightly different way of thinking about it. And that is using a floating decimal point. Now, the previous way that I've just taught it, that's the way that you should think about it. Because this knowledge of place value and how columns move up and down is really, really important. However, if you have an understanding of that, then a quicker, maybe slightly lazier way of thinking about it is by using a floating decimal point. So let's say we have the number 3.6. And I'm wanting us to multiply that by 10. Well, we could think about the columns moving. However, another maybe slightly easier way of thinking about it is to just think about the decimal point jumping one place to make the number bigger. So we've gone from 3.6 to 36. So by making the decimal point jump, we can make a number bigger or smaller. Different number this time. Again, we're going to multiply it by 10, but you'll notice there's nothing else after the decimal point here. So you might be thinking, well, how do we make the decimal point jump something if there's nothing there to jump? Well, the thing is, after a decimal point, you can stick as many zeros as you want. So let's stick a couple of zeros on the end there. So now, if we're wanting to multiply this by 10, we've got 74. Now it skips one place, and we've made 740 instead. So the same method applies, we just need to understand that when we're skipping and it looks like there's nothing there, well, what is nothing? It's 0. So technically you're skipping a 0. What about division then? So if I want to take 69 and divide it by 10, well, in that case, if I move that way to get bigger numbers, the decimal point will have to move this way to make the number smaller. So if we're taking 69 and dividing it by 10, we get 6.9. If we were dividing it by 100, the decimal point would skip 2 places and we'd get 0.69. So there you go, guys. It really is that simple. You can think of this in two different ways. You can think about it as the numbers moving up or down different columns, or you can think about it as the decimal point jumping in order to make a number bigger or smaller. But the key thing when you're multiplying or dividing by 10 or 100 is that all your numbers stay the same. It's just their place value that changes. Cheers, guys!